Hi you two, let's kick off today's maths lesson with a little bit of fluency. So we're carrying on counting in our threes, and after our first day of learning this, the challenge was to try and remember the first four numbers in our threes sequence. So can you remember what they are? Let's have a go at counting together. So 0, 3, 6, 9, 12. Well done. And then yesterday's challenge was to remember the three numbers that came in the sequence after 12. So can you remember what those were? So remember, it's 3 more than 12, which is 15. 3 more again would be 18. And 3 more again would be 21. Well done if you remembered all of those. That is a lot of numbers to remember, so well done. Let's have a go at counting up to 21 in our threes then by looking at them, and then we'll hide them again. So 0, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21. Fantastic. So what we're going to do now is we're going to finish the rest of the sequence counting in our threes. So 3 more than 21 would be, that's right, it would take us all the way to 24. And then 3 more than that again. Super, that would take us to 27. And then 3 more than that. Super, that would take us to 30. We'll stop there because I think any more than that would be too many to remember, and we'll do the last two tomorrow. So let's count up to 30 then in our threes, starting from 0. So 1, 2, 3. 0, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, 30. Fantastic. Okay, so what we're going to do this time is we're going to cover up those numbers that we have been learning the last couple of days, and then we'll cover up the others one at a time after that. So starting from 0, then counting in threes. 0, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, 30. Okay, so I'm just going to extend this box here to hide our next number. So let's say the sequence again from 0. 3, 2, 1, 0, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24. That's right, well done. Right, that means we've got to extend our box again to hide the next number in our sequence. So let's go back to 0 and count in threes. What number did we just hide? Just think about what that number is going to be. So from 0 then, 3, 2, 1, 0, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27. Excellent. So let's cover that up again and think about what the next number would be that we're missing. So from 0 then, counting in our threes. 3, 2, 1, 0, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, 30. Fantastic. Well done. So remember now, your job for tomorrow is to keep saying these next three numbers in our sequence. So 24, 27, 30. 24, 27, 30. And challenge yourself. See how far you can get into counting your threes before you have to look back at the screen and remind yourself. Lovely. So let's make a start with today's maths lesson then. And I've got some pictures of some shoes. And I want you to tell me, what can you see? So using the sentence frame then, over here, what can you see? Super. So you should have said that you can see that there are 1, 2, 3, 4 groups there. And you can see that they are groups of 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So you can see that they are groups of 2. And yesterday we started to look at how we could say, instead of saying that there are 4 groups of 2, we could say, well, there's 2 and 2 again, and 2 again, and 2 again, so that we could write it as a repeated addition. So that would mean that my number 2, which is the number of shoes that I have in each group, is being repeatedly added. So 2 and 2 more, and 2 more blue shoes, and 2 more green shoes. So that's what we were looking at yesterday. And I've got another picture here. And the same question goes, what can you see here from this representation? Have a look at this sentence frame from the success criteria. There are groups of Lovely, well done. So we can see that we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 groups of 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So I can see that I've got 4 groups of 2 children this time, not shoes. So again, as a repeated addition, I would have 2, add 2, add 2, add 2. And today I'm going to show you how that can be written as a multiplication expression. And all that means is using our multiplication symbol. Now, if you have a look at our next step on our success criteria, you can see that we're using a new symbol. This symbol that looks like an X is our multiplication symbol, or you might have heard of it as a times symbol. And all that means is instead of writing groups of, we would change that to a secret code. And that secret code is multiply or times. So instead of saying 4 groups of 2, I could then say 4, where my first number shows me the number of groups that I have, times 2, where 2 is the number of items I have with each group. So this would be called a multiplication expression. And all the word expression means is that it doesn't have an equal sign, because if it had an equal sign, we would call it an equation. So this word just means that there's not going to be an equal sign. So I'm going to run through that one more time just to be super clear. So there are 4 groups of 2, and we could say that as a repeated addition, that would be 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2. But we're going to change it to a secret code, and instead of saying that there are 4 groups of 2, we're going to replace groups of with our multiplication symbol, so that we've got 4 groups of 2 children. So our multiplication symbol is just replacing groups of. And remember, it's called a multiplication expression because there is no equal sign. So let's have a look at this in a different example. So there are so many groups of how many? So you can see that we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 groups of 5, 5, 5, 5. So those groups are equal. They each have 5 litres of liquid in them. So there are 4 groups of 5. So if I were to write that as a repeated addition, remember addition would be using the add symbol. So that would be 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5. And the reason I've got 5 written 4 times is because I've got 4 buckets. I've got 4 different groups. And then what we could do to write our multiplication expression is we could just replace this term groups of with our multiplication symbol. So I would write 4. The first number in my expression would be the number of groups that I have. Groups of 5. And the second number in my expression is showing me the number of items in each group. Super. Can you have a go at pausing the screen and seeing if you can work out what this representation would look like as a repeated addition and as a multiplication expression? And then when you're ready, we'll go through it together and you can see if you got it right. Super, let's have a go then. So you can see here that this snail is traveling in equal distances of 10 centimeters. So I can see that there is 1 group of 10 centimeters, 2 groups of 10 centimeters, 3 groups of 10 centimeters, 4 groups of 10 centimeters. So there are 4 groups of 10. And if I were to write that as a repeated addition, I would have 10 and 10 and 10 and 10. And I would replace that and with my addition symbol. So I've got 1 group of 10, 2 groups of 10, 3 groups of 10, 4 groups of 10. And then as we write a multiplication expression, we would just replace this term groups of for our multiplication symbol. So I would have 4 groups of 10. Super duper. So let's have a look at this table then. I've got 3 by itself. So that means I've got 1 group of 3. So remember, instead of saying groups of and writing it out, we are now going to replace that for this mathematical symbol instead, this multiplication symbol. So I've got 1 group of 3, and I can see that here. This is my group of 3. So over here, how many groups of 3 do I have now? Well, I've got 3 and 3, where this is 1 group of 3 and this is 1 group of 3. So I've got 2 groups of 3. So instead of writing out 2 groups of 3, we're going to write it mathematically by saying that I've got 2 groups of 3, where our multiplication symbol means groups of. Can you have a go at pausing the video and trying to work out how we could write this repeated addition as a multiplication expression? Did you have a go? Super, let's have a look then. How many groups of 3 do I have in this repeated addition? Lovely, I've got 1 group of 3, 2 groups of 3, 3 groups of 3. So that means when we're writing it as as a multiplication expression, we will have the number of groups first, 3, groups of 3. Let's have a go at working backwards then. Let's have a think. This time I've got 4. Think about what this multiplication symbol means. Groups of 3. So I've got 4 groups of 3. So that would mean that I've got 1 group of 3, 2 groups of 3, 3 groups of 3, 4 groups of 3. Lovely. Once again, just have a go at pausing the video and seeing if you can work out the last 2 by yourself. Did you have a go? Super. So let's have a look at this one then. We've got the repeated addition, so we need to write that as a multiplication expression. So always the first question is, how many groups of 3 do I have? Well, I can see that I've got 1 group of 3, 2 groups of 3, 3 groups of 3, 4 groups of 3, 5 groups of 3. So if I were writing that as a multiplication expression, I would write the number of groups that I've got first, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5. And instead of writing out groups of, I would just use my multiplication symbol. 5 groups of, and inside each of my groups, I've got the number 3. So I've got 5 groups of 3. And then working backwards to our repeated addition, we've got 6 groups of 3. So then I would need to write 3 6 times in 6 different groups. So I've got 1 group of 3, 2 groups of 3, 3 groups of 3, 4 groups of 3, 5 groups of 3, 6 groups of 3. Well done if you managed to get those right. Do you notice anything then about the patterns as we go down our columns? Pause the video if you need a little bit more time to think and see if you can tell somebody what you notice. Super. So you might have noticed that it's going down by increasing by 1 as we go down. So we've got 1 times 3, 2 times 3, 3 times 3. So our number of groups is increasing by 1 as we go down. And as we get another group, we get another 3 added to our repeated addition, don't we? So I've got 1 group of 3, 2 groups of 3, 3 groups of 3, 4 groups of 3. So every time I add another 3 on here, the number of groups that I have at the start of my multiplication expression increases by 1. So we've got some more expressions here to match together. And remember, our multiplication symbol is meaning groups of. So I've got 4 groups of 5. So let's have a look. I need 4 groups of 5. So here I can see that I don't have groups of 5. I can see here that I don't have groups of 5. I can see here that I don't have groups of 5. I can see here that I do have some groups of 5. There we go. Let's see if I've got 4 of them. 1, 2, 3. Well, that's not right because I need to have 4 groups of 5. So let's check our last one. 1, 2, 3, 4. Super. So you can see that I've got 1 group of 5, 2 groups of 5, 3 groups of 5, 4 groups of 5. So then I would match those together. Let's have a look at this next one. This time I've got 5 groups of 4. So let's have a look. Do I have groups of 4 here? Yes, I do. Do I have 5 of them? Well, I've got 1 group of 4, 2 groups of 4, 3 groups of 4. That doesn't match our multiplication. We want 5 groups of 4. So let's move on. These are not groups of 4, so I'm going to move on. These are groups of 4. Let's see how many I've got. 1 group of 4, 2 groups of 4, 3 groups of 4, 4 groups of 4, 5 groups of 4. So this is the one that matches our multiplication expression, 5 groups of 4. Once again, pause the video and have a go at matching the rest of our multiplication expressions with our repeated additions. And then when you're ready, play the video and we'll go through them together. Fabulous. So let's have a look at what we've got here. I've got 3 groups of 4. So starting from the top. These are groups of 4. Let's see how many I've got. 1 group of 4, 2 groups of 4, 3 groups of 4. So I know that that one is right. 4 groups of 3. Let's have a look. Well, this one's matched. Let's start here. These are groups of 3. How many do I have? 1 group of 3, 2 groups of 3, 3 groups of 3, 4 groups of 3. 4 groups of 3 matches to this one. So let's just check our final one, which is this one. 3 groups of 5. Do I have 1 group of 5, 2 groups of 5, 3 groups of 5? I do. Well done if you managed to match all of those correctly. So this time we've got some representations. And we've seen these representations before when we've been looking at repeated addition. So you might see that I've got 3, add 3, add 3, add 3. Or what we could say is instead of having 3, add 3, add 3, add 3, we could then say that we've got 4 groups of 3. And remember, now we're writing multiplication expressions. We don't need to write groups of anymore. We can just replace that with our multiplication symbol. So I've got 4 groups of 3. Which one of these cards is showing us 4 groups of 3? Fabulous. It is the last one. So I would match these two together. And again, it's your turn to have a go. So pause the video and see if you can work out which of our remaining multiplication expressions match with our remaining representations. Lovely. Well done for having a go. Let's go through some answers then. So here I can see that I've got 1 group of 5, 2 groups of 5. And now I don't need to write groups of anymore. I could just use my multiplication symbol. So I would have 2 groups of 5, which would match with this one. Well done. And then for our last one, let's just see. I've got 1 group of 5, 2 groups of 5, 3 groups of 5, and I would replace groups of with my multiplication symbol. So I'd have 3 groups of 5, which would match with this. Lovely work, year 2. Well done. Okay, just like we did yesterday, having to complete our drawings, I've now got 3 times 5. And remember, our multiplication symbol is our code word for groups of. So this is showing me, remember, the first number in my multiplication is showing me how many groups I should have. So far, I've only got 1 group. So I need to have 3 groups. So I need to have another. And I need to have another again to give me a total of 3 groups of 5. So number of items in each group, well, I can see that I've got 5 crosses. So this group also has to have 5 crosses. Doesn't have to be in the same order though. As long as it has the same number, they are equal. Lovely. What do you think that would be as a repeated addition then? That's right, it would be 5, add 5, add 5. And then we might have a situation where you've got to draw your own representation from scratch. So remember, the first number in our multiplication expression shows us how many groups we have. 3 groups of 4. So 3 groups of 4. So that means I'm going to have 3 groups. 2, 3. And inside each group, I'm going to have 4 items. And I could draw flowers, I could draw stars, but it's very difficult for me to draw with my mouse, so I'm just going to draw lines. But you can be as creative as you like. Okay, we've got some reasoning now. So we've got a representation here, and we need to have a look at these expressions below and have a think about which one matches our representation. So I've got one group here of 5 eggs. So I've got one group of 5, 2 groups of 5, 3 groups of 5. So remember, we don't need to say groups of anymore. We can say 3 and then replace that groups of with our multiplication symbol so that we have 3 times 5, 3 groups of 5. So which one of our expressions matches this? That's right, well done. It's this one. And we can explain ourselves by saying, I know that this one is correct because the first number in my expression shows me that there are 3 groups, and the second number in my expression shows me that there are 5 eggs in each group. And remember, these ones here are trying to trick you, because if we were to write as a multiplication expression, we would be using the multiplication symbol and not the add symbol. If we were using add to show equal groups, remember, we would only show that as a repeated addition. So we would only show that by writing the same number each time. So 5 plus 5 plus 5. Whereas these numbers here, they're not being repeated. So that's not showing us our equal groups. Lovely. So it's your turn to have a go now. So remember, you do not need to complete every single sheet. You do not need to complete every single sheet. You just need to choose 2 of the sheets that you are comfortable at working at. And remember that they have to be as challenging as you would do in school. So in school, if you would normally start on the circle sheets, then it's a good idea for you to start on the circle sheets at home as well. Whereas in school, if you'd maybe start on a semicircle or triangle, you should probably think about starting there as well when you're at home. So what I'll do is I'll explain what is expected on each of these sheets, and then you can pause the video on whatever slide it is that you're working on, write the answers down on a sheet of paper, or you might even want to access the worksheets on the home learning section of the Byron Wood website. So this circle sheet then, you've got a representation at the start and you've got to fill in these sentence frames. So how many groups of how many? So I can see that I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 groups of 2. And remember, we could say that's 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2. So filling that in on here, 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2. Or we could write that by replacing our groups of with our multiplication symbol and saying that we've got 4 groups of 2. 4 times 2. So that's what's expected from the circle sheet. The semicircle sheet is jumping straight to those multiplication expressions and ignoring those repeated additions. So 3 groups of 5, I would say that I've got 3 times 5. Triangle sheet then, you've got some multiplication expressions written above each box, and you either need to complete the visual representation to show 6 groups of 2, or you need to draw your own from scratch. And then the square sheet then is a little bit like something we did in the flip chart. We've got the repeated addition here. So 4 by itself is 1 group of 4. So we would write that as 1 times 4. Here we've got 2 groups of 4. So then I would have that as maybe 1 group of 4 and another group of 4. So 4 plus 4. And then over here you can see that we've got 1, 2, 3 groups of 4. So we would write that as 3 groups of 4. So just finish that for the rest of the square sheet. And then the pentagon sheet, we've also done something a little bit like this, where we've got our expression and we've got to match it to our repeated addition. Remember, 2 groups of 4. So I wouldn't look here because I know that this is not showing me groups of 4. This is not showing me groups of 4. These are showing me groups of 4. So think very carefully about that one. And then the most challenging sheet that we've got today is our hexagon sheet, where you've got to fill in the missing numbers from our multiplication or repeated addition expressions. So I'd really love to see some of those sheets if anyone happens to get onto those. But well done, everyone. We've got through another maths lesson at home. I know this isn't easy for anybody, but you're all doing a fantastic job. We're really enjoying seeing the work that you send in, and we will see you again for another lesson. Bye, everyone.